Happy Tuesday, you guys. I wanted to ask you a quick question. I want to get your responses and tell me what you think. There's a doctor from Yale University, Dr. Harlan Krumholz, I think. He's on Twitter. And he's a scientist and a researcher, and he specializes in healthcare improvement, whatever that means. But he asked a question on his Twitter feed about how patients think that hospitals can improve in their service, and how they're servicing patients, and especially patients with chronic illness. I mean, we would be great the perfect subject matters for such a question. But I wanted to ask you guys, the Rainbow and Bloom community, what have your experiences at hospitals been, and how would you actually improve hospital service? I know for me, we could be here all day. And I went to a great hospital, the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania, Penn, in Philly. I noticed that when I was there for those 6 months plus, 6 months consistently, um, obviously all the nurses are trained to always check before they leave your room. They must ask. When I was on the cancer ward, I noticed this. They ask every single time, no matter how much they talk to you, when they were in the room with you, before they left, they had to ask you, is there anything else I can do for you? It actually was pretty annoying sometimes. I'm like, I can barely keep my head up or, stay conscious. I already told you everything. Stop asking, but they had to do it. So service and like being very aware of the patient, just servicing the patient. That's very, very much drilled into their heads. But you can still tell the difference between nurses who are just kind of doing the job they're trained to do. They got to get their check. They're going to do what they're trained to do. And nurses who had it in their heart, you know? So it's like a different level of service, and you can't train that into somebody. But I think that for it, different hospitals, have different levels of service. But that for me would be something that I would suggest for any hospital. Well, you know what? The first thing I would suggest is do surveys. Penn does a lot of surveys, and I would suggest that. Hello. Afternoon. Yeah, I had to pause. But yeah, so I would suggest constant surveys of patients, email and otherwise, and even incentives for surveys to see how to do better. And, you know, oh, another thing about these hospitals, not just hospitals, but doctors' offices in general. When you make an appointment, I used to make an appointment first thing in the morning, and I still have to wait 2 hours. And then you go in, and they're just like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, but I've been here for like 2 3 hours, and I thought I had the first appointment, so what the hell you been doing all morning? They just carry on like it's no big deal. And they could just acknowledge what you did, you know what I mean? But or at least organize yourself properly, manage your time, because you have to respect other people's time. So that's just those are two things. But what would your recommend, so I can see myself, what would you recommend to these hospitals to improve? I'm curious. Leave a comment. I hope all is well. Talk to you soon.